All right, now let's take a look at the protective tariff diagram. And if you don't understand the free trade diagram, which is the video preceding this one, stop right now, go back and understand that diagram, because I'm not going to reconstruct the ideas behind the free trade diagram in this diagram. I'm going to go right into the differences made when the government puts a tariff on goods coming into a particular country, okay? So, remember, in economics, there is always a story. Things do not happen without human beings. Our lives, our actions create stories. So if economics is human behavior, which it is, and you have diagrams and you need to write an analysis about the diagram, then guess what? You need to understand what the story is. And if you go through these diagrams with the story in your mind, guess what? You will go through a perfect paragraph of how to write the analysis for the diagram that you're looking at. Super important thing, especially you IB students out there who have to write these analyses. You go through the storyline, my friends. Don't try to memorize diagrams. Do not memorize diagrams. Remember the stories. Our brains are made to learn stories. These are stories, okay? So where does the story begin? It starts always with free trade. Free trade, free trade. What happened? Well, before the United States, same market for corn, before the United States opened its market up for corn, P1Q1 was where the economy was operating. And actually, this was a huge revenue box, P1Q1. All of that revenue for corn was made by US producers. Then the government opened up the doors, and all of a sudden, a huge amount of corn came into the country from abroad. And the price level dropped to PW, which is a price established in the international market for commodities. As a result, the market started operating at PWQ2. But of that corn, how much of it was produced in the United States? Well, I'll tell you how much was produced in the United States. All of the corn that's represented by this domestic supply curve. Well, how much was it? Well, guess what? At that PW level, only this amount of corn was produced in the United States. So that means that this right here is a box that represents the amount of revenue earned by US producers. And this box right here represents the amount of corn revenue generated by world producers. Okay? So what happened? Well, the United States farmers, all of these people started complaining to their government and said, hey, I just lost my farm, man. I've had this for 5 generations, and now I can't produce any corn because you fools opened the market up to world corn and put me out of business. I thought you were supposed to be my government. I thought you're supposed to represent my interests. I live in Canada. I live in Kansas, and I have been here for generations, and now this corn coming in from other parts of the world is ruining my life. And so the government does what it should do, which is respond to the needs of its people. And what do? They put a tariff on goods coming in from outside the United States at a price level that is higher than PW. Hey, that's kind of cool. Thought I was yelling. Yeah, well, man, people lost their farms. Okay, so what is this? This is SW, and the next slide is much clearer. SW plus the tariff. Okay, and we have a new price here of PW plus the tariff. Okay, so let me clean that up because that was absolutely horrible, and it looks like this. And there you have it. Okay, you have now the protective tariff diagram that I just drew with a bunch of letters on it. So what do those letters represent? Well, those letters represent genius as far as I'm concerned, because these letters represent the area for these particular places. In other words, A represents the area there, that triangle. B represents the area of this triangle. This is not a triangle, this shape. Okay? So when you go about looking at these diagrams, you have to look at like, what is it that, where is the revenue coming from? Okay. The revenue, as we saw on the previous slide, this is the revenue that is coming from, or that is being earned in the United States. Okay. Hold on one second. I got the wrong pen here. Right. This is coming from inside the United States. So A and B is domestic revenue from the sale of corn before the tariff. That would be A plus B. Well, what about world revenue before the tariff? Well, that would be C plus D plus E plus F. Okay? We just got ourselves up to where we were on the last slide. Okay. But then the tariff comes in. And what happens? Well, the tariff actually enables, because the price went up because of the tariff, it pushed the price up and enabled all of these farmers to stay in business. They got protected. Yeah, it's protected tariff. What are you protected from? From low prices coming in from outside the country. So as a result of the price level going up to PW plus T, right, the market itself is now going to operate at Q4, which means that there is a welfare loss to society of what? Of K. Because that corn is lost. It's no longer produced or sold in the United States. Okay? Well, at PWT, what level of corn is now produced by U.S. producers? Well, that's AB plus, check it, G plus H plus what? C. Wow. So U.S. revenue from the sale of corn has now expanded. Yeah, because the government's looking out for its own people, man. Out to here, right? That's right. That C now is green. Wow. That's pretty cool. I know it's cool. That's why econ's so cool. Look at that. These people right here, that line right there, those are real farmers in the United States who are now in business again because the government did the protective tariff and protected them. Okay. So now how much revenue is being earned by foreign producers of corn? Well, the market is operating here at Q4, so what's left? Well, I, J, D, and E. But guess what? The only corn that's actually, the money that's actually going in the pockets of foreign producers is actually only D and E. Why? Because when the corn comes in to the United States, it comes in at PW, but then what happens? Ooh, they slap the tariff on. Oh! So what does I and J represent? Well, I and J represents the government revenue from the tariff as a result of all the corn that's coming in from outside the United States, and it goes into the pockets of the U.S. government in this case. Okay? So, what does that mean? So, I and J, that place right there, represents the amount of money earned by the U.S. government as a result of the tariff. Okay. So, now let me clean that up even more, and I'll make the lines a little bit darker so that you can see them, a little bit stronger so that you can see them. Okay. Pre-tariff U.S. revenue from corn, before the tariff. Boom. A and B. Then the tariff comes in place. And as a result of that, U.S. revenue from the sale of corn expands from A to B to A plus B plus C plus H plus G. A plus B plus C plus H plus G. You got it? Cool. Now, what about the rest of the corn? Well, all of this corn right here is still being sold in the U.S. marketplace, but where is it coming from? Well, from Q2 to Q4, which is where the market's now operating, that is coming from outside the U.S. So you would think that I, J, D, and E is world production or world revenue, but it's not. Why? Because all of the corn coming in from outside the U.S. is getting a tariff slapped on it. So world production or world revenue from corn is only D&E. This I and J is what? U is U.S. government revenue from the sale of the tariff. Sale of the tariff. From the sale of the corn. And this little piece of K right there, well, that's our good friend welfare loss. And that's one of them because the welfare loss is a lack of, is the result of a misallocation of resources. And all of these producers right here used to make corn and sell it in the United States, but now they're not. And also, actually, all of these consumers right here used to be buying corn, but now the price is up to PW plus T, and they can't. And so that represents a welfare loss. But there's actually one more. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Where else is there an inefficiency on here? I'll tell you where. You know these people that lost their farm? They're not supposed to be making corn, dude. They should be making something else. Make some wheat or grow some soybeans or I don't know. Go to the city and get a job. You can't compete. It's so brutal, right? But now they're making corn. Why? Because the U.S. government came in and protected them. And so this H right there, which is kind of hidden, that's H. H represents another welfare loss as a result of the tariff, because now there's a misallocation of resources of H and K. You got that? Now, one of the cool things, pay attention to the black triangles. Pay attention to the black triangles. Because we're going to move on to the subsidy diagram. And in the subsidy diagram, you're going to see that there's only one black triangle. Then we're going to move on to the quota diagram, and you're going to see that there are two black triangles. So in your evaluation, what type of protective measure do you think would actually be better for the society as a whole if we're really just looking at misallocation of resources? Well, I don't know about you, but it seems like one black triangle that represents misallocation of resources is better than two black triangles that represent misallocation of resources. And you're right, okay? You got all that? So from the tariff, you have producers who were protected. So it's a gain for producers, but for consumers, they have to pay a higher price. So that's bad for the consumers. What about the government? Not only the political gain from making the tariff, but they also bring in some revenue. So pretty good for them too. All right? There's a protective tariff. If you don't understand that, check the notes below. There's a whole bunch of information there as well. And check the slides so that you can draw this yourself if you want, or better yet, get a piece of paper, a ruler, a pencil, and copy and draw this thing over and over and over again. All right, and we are rolling on to the next video, my friends. We'll see you there.